maple trees.
Why are we gonna tap maple trees?
Cause make syrup.
Okay, tell them, say let's go.
Let's go. Let's go.
What are you gonna do?
I'm tap some maple trees.
You gonna tap some maple trees?
Yeah.
How many taps do you think we should put in this one?
How about this one and that one, and then a long tree is this.
Okay.
How many taps do you want to put in this tree?
Only 4.
4.
Yeah.
I don't know, buddy. Let's check it and make sure. Now this is just the first step in the process of making your own maple syrup, and that is just to get the trees tapped. You will want to make sure and familiarize yourself with what a maple tree looks like, what type of maple trees you may have. If you can't tell it by the bark, the best thing is to mark your trees whenever there's leaves on the tree during the summertime, spring, fall, before the leaves fall. But once you know your maple tree, you will then tap it. Once we determined our maple trees we have going up our lane, I got out my Biltmore stick, which is what you see here. This is just a quick reference tool to determine the diameter of a tree and how many log feet you can get out of a tree. I'm using it here to determine what diameter tree it is, as that will help figure out how many taps we can put on that tree. Once we determine the diameter and how many taps we can put in the tree, we will go ahead and start drilling. There are hand drills out there. We just used a little power drill to drill into our maple trees. We tap about 3 foot high off of the ground, and we have a 5/16 bit. And you'll notice here, from the tip of the bit down to the first little part of the blue tape, that is 1.5 inches. That is the depth you will want to drill into your tree. So just putting that tape on there, 1.5 inches down, just quickens the process of drilling the trees. Once you have the hole drilled, you will then take your tap of choice and tap it into the tree. You will want to make sure you're very careful in this process. You don't want to cause any other splitting or damage to the tree than the hole that you've already drilled. As you are hammering your tap into the tree, you should hear a thud sound. That is when you will want to quit hitting the tap into the tree. Once the tap is in, we have hoses this year that we ran down through a bucket. We drilled a hole in the side of the bucket. You want to try to not drill into the top of it. That way if it rains, the rainwater doesn't catch on top and go down into your sap that you've collected. So we went through the side. We ran the hose in through the hole of the side of the bucket, and the sap will flow down through the hose and collect in our 5-gallon buckets. Now, a couple years ago when we did this, we actually had like 1-gallon buckets that we hung on the side of the tree. We learned real quick that we needed more than just 1-gallon buckets. So that's why we have moved up to the 5-gallon buckets and the hoses that just run into it. We will wait and gather the syrup. This is going to be over several days long period of time. The last time we would gather the sap during the week, we'd get a big collection, and then in the week, once the weekend came and we had ample amount of time, that's whenever we would cook it down. Now we wait for the sap to run. It will need to be above freezing during the day and below freezing at night to get a good run of the sap. So we will not do this whole video today, but I will bring you along with the whole process and the steps that we take to produce the maple syrup. So this year how we did it, we got a large food grade barrel. As you can see here, we've put it on a pallet and we were able to haul it around with our little yard tractor. We ended up putting out 9 taps of trees just up and down the driveway here. We collected just 2 weeks this year. The season was a bit crazy, but we had 2 straight weeks of collecting sap. Each week we collected on average about, I would say, 35 gallons of sap. One Saturday and one Sunday we cooked it down. This year we cooked it down over the fire a majority of the time. I did cook some through the week in the roaster pans again, but overall most of it was done over the fire. The downside to doing it over the fire like this, you get a lot of ash in your syrup, which just means extra filtering. It's not a big deal. but you will have a smokier flavor within your syrup. But you'll see here, while the sap was cooking over the fire, this here is an image of the sap that I cooked down within the roaster. So I'm just going to add that to the sap that's on the fire. Hey, Joes. You helping make some syrup? Moving right along in the process, what I'm showing you here is the filter that you'll run the sap through before you do your final cook down. So what you're seeing is all the debris, all the ash, anything that is small and captured within the filter. This was pretty rough since we did it over the fire. If I can offer any advice, it is to filter and filter again, and just when you think you've filtered enough, filter it one more time. And invest in some good filters for this process. The more you filter, the better filters you use, the better quality you will have with your final product of maple syrup. As I look back at this video, I can't help but laugh at our system that we rigged up to make this work. But as I said, we are amateurs. We do not sell our syrup. It is just for our personal consumption. But what I use to put the filter in is actually a tomato strainer that you can use when you're juicing or working with tomatoes. But hey, the filter fit inside and it worked and it did the job. If you also look closely, you'll notice two thermometers. We've got one hanging down off of the little strainer and we've got one on the side. The temperature you will want to reach is 219 degrees Fahrenheit. There are hydrometers and other specialized equipment that's a little bit more accurate to know when the syrup is truly complete. I'm thinking that might be an investment for next year, but for this year we just go by the temperature of 219 degrees Fahrenheit. Another indicator of very close to having maple syrup is these small bubbles that you see forming here in this little part of the video. And once you've reached 219 degrees, you still need to filter again. So this is the final filter before we can our maple syrup for 2021. Now, when working with maple syrup, you do not need to water bathe them. You do not need to pressure can them. This is a vital step that you really need to be kind of quick with. When you reach your 219 degrees, you want to quickly filter your syrup the final time and then get it into the jars ASAP. If you think you've lost a lot of temperature after you filter, you may want to heat it back up again, just because when you put the syrup in your jar or your bottle, whatever you choose, you will put your lid on and then you'll actually flip the jar upside down, and that temperature of the maple syrup is actually what's going to sterilize and seal your bottle or your jar. For this year of 2021, we were able to put back 19 pints of maple syrup, and that was collected and cooked down just in 2 weeks. That should be enough to hold us over until next year. Time will tell on that one. But I hope, if anything, this video inspires you to just try it yourself. I will try to link anything I can below that will help you get started making your own maple syrup. I thank you for coming along with me on this little journey, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.